This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Center, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species, and Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Outdoor Journal Radio. I'm Angelo and Reno Viola. He is Peter Bowman.
Hi there. I feel like Dink Winklicker, the newscaster here or something like that. Like, what the hell? I feel like I'm just like with the news man here looking around. I looked over you. You're doing the same thing.
Vova. Nick is there sort of, and Dean is over there.
Now.
But Dean is not really over there because he's right over there.
That's right. Yeah, quarter in the jar right there.
Where's the jar?
Whiskey
Where's the damn
in
jar?
The jar? Whiskey in the jar. Oh, it's a good song, actually.
We have no guest for you today because we have a subject matter that we thought would warrant us maybe spending a little more time ourselves talking about it because it's very near and dear to our hearts and our wallets.
Hopefully everybody could just sort of go with the flow with us here too, because I know we do talk a lot about it, but that's okay.
No, recently all in the news is the big story for us anyways, the fact that the National Professional Fishing League, which is I'll call it a B-level tournament series in the U.S.
I guess you'd call it that. I don't know how you classify it, but it's not. Yeah, it's not the Bassmaster Elites, and it's not the MLF.
They were the first ones out of the chute, completely banning Forward Facing Sonar from their events, which is humongous. And
B.A.S.S just made an announcement too, which we'll get into a way. So they've changed the ruling on this too, but
which is very concerning, and we want to talk about that.
And this is at the elite level, so the highest of the best of the best. There's a change in it. So
before we get to that, of course, as per usual, we have all kinds of good.
Where's Uncle Nick?
I don't know where he went. He ran out of here. Apparently,
smoke break.
Worrying about hacking.
Oh, okay.
Or something. I don't know.
Is he getting hacked?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Perhaps we are. Who knows?
Oh, my.
Fishingcanada.com. Shop.fishingcanada.com. Shop.fishingcanada.com.
Yes.
You get stuff like what I'm wearing, stuff like Pete's not wearing, but if he were wearing
look at that,
if he were wearing something, he would be wearing something from shop.fishingcanada.com.
Otherwise, I wear Prince Craft and stuff like that. Our great sponsors that are the Fishing Canada show.
All right.
Yes.
Trying always to get off the hook. You got lucky on that one. You're lucky.
Lucky I didn't wear that F the World T-shirt or something today, right?
But anyways,
my Megadeth T-shirt.
We'll send Pete to shop.fishingcanada.com right after the show, and he can get himself a nice, Fishing Canada logoed outfit that might be representative of the company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
But anyways, in his absence, maybe you could do that. There's some wonderful things there, like these new embroidered hoodies, perfect for this time of year, along with the Fishing Canada embroidered hoodie, Outdoor Journal embroidered hoodie.
Can we not show some other stuff here now? We're showing there's an awful lot. Is this, are we really pushing these? Is that what it is?
It's number one.
If it's that popular, we should put something else up there so we can push it now, because they're pushing through, right? So now
all right, there you go. Marketing director, you heard it right from this man right here.
Yep.
A guy who's not wearing a Fishing Canada logoed branded product.
That's correct.
What do you want him to do? You want him to change this up?
I think it's on there every week now. We should probably have something else.
We're on every week too. Maybe we should have something else on too.
Yeah, I could say we could be replaced. I'm sure we could be replaced, right?
Anyway, it's all happening at fishingcanada.com or shop.fishingcanada.com, whichever you prefer. Make it happen.
You're getting good at that. You're getting good at that website throwouts.
Is the poll on fishingcanada.com, Dean?
The poll was on Spotify.
Oh, it's on Spotify.
Yep.
Have we asked, have we told people about that at all recently?
Yeah, in the episode we were doing where somebody asked that, we sent them all to Spotify, and that's where they participated.
So if they want to get into...
they're much more in tune than you and I are, that's for sure. Our listeners are definitely
if they want to get in tune with polls, Fishing Canada polls and such, outdoor polls, they can go to Spotify. And what do they do when they get there? How does that work?
If you scroll down under the episode, you'll see you can review the episode right there, and you can answer the poll we put up.
Nice. That's pretty slick, eh, Ange?
Yeah.
Well, I like the sound
that.
of it. I mean, I wouldn't know how the hell to get there, but you know what? I'm hoping that everybody else is far more advanced than myself
Yes.
in those things.
Yes, indeed.
If you go there and check the poll out, we just ran one apparently that answered the question, should Fish in Canada do episodes in the U.S.?
Which was asked by a U.S. listener.
A U.S.
right?
listener, not a Canadian listener.
By the U.S. Right, Dean? I'm correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
You look like you're in Alaska there.
That's
Could be
Canada.
US.
Look at that.
Holy
Largemouth bass,
mackerel.
probably November, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quinny.
Look, almost looks colder than where you are, than pickerels.
I know.
There.
I know. I'm getting
I like
cold
that
just looking at
statue
that.
of Liberté there. That's the. Did she fart? Look at there's a big old gas bomb underneath her butt there. I think she laid out a toot. I think a toot.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, it's a cloud. Sorry.
Good Lord.
Sorry, Bowman.
And you know what the worst part? You know what the worst part about that is that I'm the one who has to answer to it. People say to me, you guys are getting a little edgy on that program, and I don't know whether I should be,
If there's somebody complaining about a fart,
They don't complain to him. They complain to me.
Hey, everybody, complain to me. Send it. Well, I don't know how you get it. If they go through info and say, Pete, please answer. And then to info@fishingcanada.com, and I will take care of all the fart business and all that kind of
All
stuff.
my life, I've been answering for him.
Farts are so funny, eh? I get the odd one. I get the odd one on Instagram. There's just like different fart sounds or whatever. I was at my sister-in-law's place the other day.
Your sister-in-law.
And her handicapped niece. They have a little thing. They have this thing, Alexa. Hey, it's the
Yes.
Siri. They go, Alexa, play fart sounds, and this thing starts cracking out all these fart. Everyone, would you like to hear a grumbly fart? Yes, or a random fart.
What is it about?
And this is 3 girls and me sitting in the room. So they called it. I did. I just sat there and enjoyed
That's
it.
very uncommon, mind you, depending on the girls, obviously.
Lisa, Angelo said that.
No, I'm just saying it
Angelo.
depends on the girls. Not all girls would laugh at something like that.
Right.
Let's be honest. But my question was, what is it
Only the fun girls.
that makes adult males? What is the fascination with passing gas?
It is. There is.
I
I'm
don't understand.
I'm a perfect example of it. I don't know why, but I can't not laugh at a fart sound.
I know.
Like it just
What
it
is
kills
it?
me when I see it and I hear it. When I smell it, I run. But other than that, I just love it. I don't know what it is. It's so funny.
And it doesn't
It's
matter
so
how old you are.
stupid.
I remember my dad. Now, mind you, I was a little kid, so he probably was in his 40s, I would think. And at night, every single night, because we had the bedroom right next to theirs, doors were open, so you could hear the conversations. You hear it every single night, without fail.
He didn't give Gracie the Dutch oven, did he?
Every night. Every night. And it was the same dialogue and laughter by him every night.
Was your mom disgusted? Or
Oh,
was,
totally.
Yeah.
And it was like, for him, he found it funny.
Yeah.
Like,
My dad was the king of pull my finger to all the kids, and we'd all rush over to get it. The winner was the guy that got to pull the finger, right? And he was so good at those cracking those beasts.
What
out.
is it? If you have an answer, if there is
We
some
need a psychologist
study out there.
We need a
that-
psychologist that that can tell us that somebody that goes into the
Weird.
psyche of the male human mind, at least.
Anyways, the poll said, should the Fish in Canada show do episodes in the USA? That was a question asked by one of our viewers, listeners. And so we went to the polls and we let you decide. And oddly enough, maybe not so odd, 100% of the responses said no.
No, you didn't.
No.
No American Fishing. Let's explore and enjoy our backyard by Mitch Singh 1109. No American Fishing on Fishing Canada by Thunderboy A 2571. So all these responses, the 100% of these responses were from Canadians. So if our
That
US,
probably has a lot to do with
yeah,
it.
if our U.S. listeners would like to
Yeah.
get in on that
Chime
poll
in
and give
on
us
that.
and see if they say the same thing, or maybe they want to just keep that Canadian content up. Maybe they like seeing that because there's a lot of U.S. content out there on the
I know.
telly, right?
I know.
So,
It's weird. Anyways, I
Interesting.
just thought that was. I thought it was odd because I thought maybe the Canadian viewers would also enjoy some U.S.
you think
fishing.
they like
Fishing is
Do they
fishing.
think a Canadian sport fishing would be? They'd love that, right? Sport
Well,
fishing wherever.
if it's a Canadian
sport fishing
abroad
anywhere.
doing it anywhere.
Is that a female?
Doing what?
I just wanted, you said a Canadian abroad. I thought maybe you're talking about you're being, you know.
Thank you, Dean. You're getting pretty good at that drama. Yeah. You're right on it now, aren't you, buddy? Oh, it took a couple of years. And you're not consistent. That's the thing, eh?
No,
That's
I'm not.
okay. That's all
You're
right.
hit and miss.
It sneaks up on me.
Because Dean is concentrating on lots. He's looking ahead in the script.
Oh, I know. He's got
sound,
so
you know,
much to do
That
there.
button's hard to find. I don't know why.
know.
It's the hardest one I have.
Really,
I know.
eh?
Yeah,
I know.
it's out of the way.
Maybe we should put some fluorescent paint on it or something. Dean.
There you go.
Put a picture of a naked woman on it. Then you could just, you'd be hitting it all. You'd be hitting it all day then.
I don't know where he's going. I have no idea. Totally out of control. Moving along.
Moving on.
Conservation Corner brought to this week. It's grass carp.
Yeah.
Brought to you by the Invasive Species Center. Conservation Corner time.
There is a fish threatening our favorite species to fish for. It's a grass carp, one of the 4 species of Asian carp, and they have the ability to change fishing as we know it, friends.
They were introduced, speaking of the U.S., they were introduced
there you go.
to the southern U.S. to control aquatic plants, which makes sense because they are big consumers of aquatic plants, these grass carp, hence the name grass carp. Mm-hmm. So they were introduced to consume some of these. I guess they had vegetation that they didn't really want. And so you bring something in that'll take care of your problem. That's what the grass carp was
use
brought in
machines
for.
for that, right? We used to use all that kind of,
Well,
what the hell, let's get the fish in there and they'll do a
But
better job.
they picked probably the most efficient grass cleaner upper, if you will, which is a grass carp, because they
Too
can
efficient.
consume up to 40% of their body weight each and every day. Now, you know, we keep saying, and some of them grow up to 80 pounds, which is probably the extreme. But let's just say that they're 20-pound average.
Yeah, 20, 25s.
20, 25-pound average.
Good
Can you
size
imagine if there are 100 of those in a bay, and each one of them is 20 to 25 pounds, and they're consuming their body weight of vegetation every day? How long would it take?
40% of their body weight, not their body weight.
40%. That's fine. Either way, how long would it take to consume that
That bay would
vegetation?
be done in days.
In days, literally days.
Yep.
And the bad part about that, I know some of you cottagers are saying, hey, bring them up to my place. I got weeds out in front of my place. I'll let you know. The problem is, and it's the same reason why you are not allowed to go and remove those weeds yourself, although we used to back in the 70s and 80s, which was a no-no, until we found out that it was destroying fish habitat, spawning areas, feeding areas, places where pike, walleye, bass, where they live. Because that's where the food is, in the vegetation. And when you remove that vegetation, you're also removing the whole food chain. It's all gone. And you can't do it. You just can't do it, man.
So, as this was written, there were no established populations of grass carp in Canadian waters of the Great Lakes, but the reproducing populations of grass carps in 2 tributaries in the U.S., Lake Erie and Ohio, making them an immediate threat.
DNA evidence is there, my friends. We're calling on all anglers to learn how to identify and report this species while out on the water to help protect the Great Lakes. Head to www.asiancarp.ca. That's asiancarp.ca to learn more about grass carp, including the most important part is identifying, because it's difficult to tell other than the eyes. Those are the most obvious part, right? Yep. Difficult to really tell one fish from another when you're looking from above.
Right.
So you need to learn all of the little nuances of what a grass carp is and does. And the place to get it is asiancarp.ca. Download it onto your phone. Carry it with you when you're out on the water and look at the phone and say, that, my friends, is an Asian, hopefully you won't say that, is a grass carp. Because hopefully you won't ever see one.
Yeah.
Come on now.
That are it.
You think we'll ever see one in our days coming up?
Well, you know what? Things move pretty darn quickly is all I got to say.
Yeah.
Podcast Network highlights The Ugly Pike podcast, episode 194.
Wow, those boys are on it, aren't they?
We should have a party for them
deal.
when they hit 200, right?
I bet you they could supply the beer.
I'll bet you hell yeah! The episode is called the 2024 Summer Season. Obviously, it recaps their fishing adventures through the 24 season. It has a look at Ontario's fall muskie season. Of course, that's what they're all about, predominantly muskie anglers.
Yeah, they love it.
And they have their whole social circle is the who's who of muskie fishing in North America, and they're hooked up with every single one of them.
Yeah,
so,
can you imagine how much knowledge they have picked up through their podcasts? Like, they're good anglers already. You got these two really good anglers, and then all of a sudden you're getting the best of the best from every expert in the world, let alone, mostly North America. But, man,
well, that's why people
learning,
listen
right?
to podcasts or watch podcasts. I mean, that's the whole concept, right? Is to learn. We're learning all the time. We're going to be learning over the course of the next 3 weeks. We're going to be learning all kinds of stuff as we head down to the east coast of Canada and shoot some Fishing Canada episodes. I'm looking forward to the learning process. I think it's fantastic.
They had a shark on 7 times in Nova Scotia the other day. They're fishing for stripers, and these sharks are eating the stripers, and they're eating the bait, and they had 7 times. They think it's the same shark that was on 7 times.
How big?
Didn't say. He just said.
Oh my!
They had a
God.
mako come up and grab a striper at the boat.
Oh my God!
At the boat.
Oh my God! So, I hope we get some of that.
Imagine that! Oh my God!
Nicely done, Dean.
Hey,
Crass.
Dean is on
It's a new button.
Don't you worry.
Plus the guys also talk about health and wellness. Speaking of sharks,
you know what? That's a good thing, because one thing I'm not sure what Chris's background is. They're both martial arts lovers, but Frank obviously is a jiu-jitsu black belt teacher, et cetera, et cetera. Frank is very much into the health and wellness and all that stuff, so I'm assuming Chris is too. And that's something else that those boys know a lot about, and you can learn from them too in that sense. So be a good podcast to listen to. 194, episode 194.
All about muskie. And speaking about muskie, my friends, Sail is your home for all things muskie, including baits, rods, nets, and paraphernalia, you name it. They've got it. It's all available at Sail.
They got a great selection there, actually.
They
really
do.
Nice. Yeah,
they do. They got some baits I've never even heard of and seen, to be honest with you. And I mean, that's not surprising, because the muskie fraternity is so into custom baits and stuff.
Oh,
right?
yeah. It's one of the hardest things to find in muskie fishing, by the way, is a net. Is the proper net for muskie fishing. So you go to a place like Sail, they'll have that net for it. It's like you need the proper net for muskie fishing. That's one thing about it. So
head on over and check it all out at your local Sail store. If you don't have one handy, then go to sail.ca and bookmark that. That's Sail, SAIL.ca. Bookmark it, so the next time you need some outdoor stuff, not just fishing, but they're big into hunting, clothing, footwear, accessories, anything to do with the outdoors. Sail is your one-stop shop. Go to sail.ca and enjoy up to 60% off on selected items.
Come on now.
well said, my friend. And this week's fan question brought to you by fishfindermounts.com.
Well, see, and
like
that's one of my worries with this whole subject that we're going to talk about in a moment.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it, and then we'll get into it, and then we'll get on to it. How's that? Yeah. This question was submitted by Mark Burry from Ontario via email, info@fishingcanada.com. You can also go to Facebook. You can go through Instagram to either of those Fishing Canada pages. Ange and Pete, you guys are the best. Well, that's not a question, but I like that.
I like that.
I love the news show, and I listen to it whenever I can, especially on solo trips into the backcountry. Excellent. What do you guys think is the best way to introduce young kids into the backcountry like Algonquin Park? There you go, my friend. My 2 boys are 7 and 4, and I want to bring them out there as safely as I can, but make it fun for them. Should I just bring them out there and see what happens, or should I pitch a tent in the backyard? That's a great question.
Wow.
That's good. That's interesting.
So one of the mistakes I remember when I was big into that outback adventure stuff, one of the things I used to run into all the time with relatively new fathers, where they've got kids, say from 5 to 10 years old. And sometimes we'd run into them out in the field, in the bowels of Algonquin Park. And the same as fishing. The same thing applies to just general fishing that would apply to this type of undertaking, is that don't overcomplicate it. So if there's nothing wrong with going into Algonquin Park, but just to Lake A, not Lake D and F and G and you know,
the multiple lake portages.
One lake, one little lake. Even if it's a matter of driving to the lake's edge, and there's a ton of them. As soon as you get into Whitney, for example, or even from the north part of the park through Cedar, it's the same thing. There are a multitude of lakes, and by the way, these lakes that are on the peripheral part of the park, they hardly ever get fished. Why? Because everybody wants to go as far deep into the woods as they possibly can. Some of the best fishing, I'm not kidding you, some of the best fishing I ever had in Algonquin Park were those first layer lakes, we call them.
So they're still in the park, but they're not easy to get to, right?
Barely in the confines of the park. Right. And there's all these wonderful lakes that all people do is paddle through them to get onto their journey.
Yeah, it's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Exactly.
Always, right?
And they have campsites on them that are always empty because nobody's using them. That's what I would do. If I had 4, 5, 6, 7, 10-year-old kids that I wanted to introduce to that sort of experience, I'd go into Algonquin Park because just the mere name implies wilderness.
Yeah.
And I'd take them through the gates, and I'd find the first lake and camp on it. We have to book it, obviously, in the park, but I would definitely do those peripheral lakes and not get into the real technical stuff of portaging and, you know, because it can be really difficult for kids to do. Same as just regular fishing. You know, some fathers want to take kids out for 8 hours to fish. Well, who in their right mind would want to do that as a kid? There's a few, but not that many.
That's right.
And what you're going to do, you're going to burn them out. And if you burn them out, it means they're not going to want to go back.
They're not going to like it. You're going to put a negative aspect to it, right? Yeah. And the other thing I think what you got to do is, I don't know what you could just conjure up other things to do throughout a day in the park. You know what I mean? So you go fishing for a couple hours, then you go hiking and the trail, maybe teach them how to build a campfire if their fires are allowed or whatever, you know, just figure some other stuff out so that it keeps them so interested they got to go, my God, that's a great trip, Dad. Thank you so much for that. Let's do that again
just
next year.
Little things that you take for granted.
And if you can catch them a fish on top of that, and then when they catch a fish, you high five them, you make sure it's like the major news of the week sort of thing like that. So they're happy as hell. And if they, you know, if you're going to eat the fish, show them how to fillet a fish, you know, and how to fry it up and have a nice meal with it.
Great places to learn all of that, by the way. Just on those peripheral lakes.
Yeah.
Just on the outside.
It's funny you said that, eh? When you go back, like you said, you got to go. It's like a cottage. A cottage owner, if you have a cottage, you don't want to fish in front of your cottage. You got to go to the other end of the lake. If you got a boat launch, you don't fish near the boat launch. That's, oh my God, it looks so good on the map way up there, right?
I'll tell you who fishes near your dock and your end of the lake is the guy who's got the cottage on the other end of the lake.
That's exactly it. What is that? I don't know what it is, but it's so true. We got to go just further and explore further. So
now, having said that, there's something to be said about going in 3, 4, 5 portages into Algonquin Park or any park for that matter. Yeah. Quetico's another wonderful experience.
Those kids, like 5 years after they keep going, then they can start doing it. You know, then they say, Dad,
and I've
let's go
seen
farther.
Those, you know, that age group, that 14 to 18-year-old kid out there, and man, they are keen. They're in great physical condition. Yeah. And they are eager to explore and get into.
Make sure
adventures.
you bring some bug repellent too.
Ouch.
That's one thing that'll piss everybody off, let alone kids. So,
but especially kids.
Yeah,
right.
They'll hate going if it's bad.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. Make sure that you don't chintz out on the accessories that will make it an enjoyable outing.
That's right.
Some form of protection from bugs, obviously. But also stuff like rain gear. Nothing. You're going to get rain. You go out for a 3 or 4 day excursion in the woods. At some point, you got to expect it's going to rain, and you need rain gear. Footwear. You need proper footwear. Like all of these things, I wouldn't take kids into the outback without first outfitting them properly. You don't have to spend a fortune, just basics.
Yep.
And that's where Sail comes in, by the way. Or sail.ca if you want to check out all the other good stuff there.
Lots of good stuff.
So that's what I would highly recommend. Yeah, camping in the backyard. Who didn't camp in the backyard as a kid?
Yeah, true.
How much fun was that?
Cool. That's very cool. A little pop tent back there. You just have some fun.
It was great. I remember
marshmallows, hot dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very awesome.
So. All right. So hopefully that answered.
Who was that brought to us by? Answer that fan question.
Well, if I could get on, I got all my stuff
Brought
all
to you by
torn apart.
fishfindermounts.com.
Fishfindermounts.com.
That's who it was brought by. Just wanted to
Well,
make sure.
thank you. By the way, if you're wondering, if you're not a regular listener and you hear us saying fishfindermounts.com, what the hell are they? Well, they're they are the manufacturers, because they manufacture this stuff themselves in their British Columbia
machine
factory.
shop or whatever you call it.
The best quality mounts for anything electronic on your boat or canoe or kayak. Anytime you need to mount a piece of electronic, including transducers that go under the water surface, the only place you need to go is fishfindermounts.com. Easy name to remember. Hey, I'm looking for a fish finder mount. Where do you think I should look? Fishfindermounts.com.
That's right.
Come on now.
There you go. And the quality is superb. They're not inexpensive, but we've talked about it on this program before. We've all gone down that road. In fact, Pete and I probably have about, 7 or 8 inexpensive little mounts for hanging a transducer off the back of a tin boat. And they're all sitting in a bin back there because nobody
take her to the scrap yard.
They're going for scrap pretty soon. They've got a really cool one at fishfindermounts.com. The magnet. The magnetic
the transom
transducer,
mount?
Transom mount
Yeah,
transducer.
it's
Oh
awesome.
my God, Dean, you experienced that?
Yeah. It's a scary magnet. Like it's not going anywhere, but you don't want your hand in the middle of it. It's
You got to learn to put it on and off
snaps. Oh, yeah.
properly.
And how do you get it off?
You got to twist
a lot
it.
of
You gotta
strength.
do a twist,
yeah,
right?
it's like a twist
quarter
and then
twist, then
it's,
pull it. Yeah.
It's not easy to get off, but that's what you want because
Yeah.
you never worry about it.
If I had $1 for every time I'm looking at the sonar over the last 40 years and the signal just starts going haywire, and I say, I know there's not 90 feet here. I mean, I look out back and there's my transducer flopping out the back of the boat.
The suction cup popped
The
off the
suction
back.
cup
right?
popped off
Yeah.
the back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. Well, let me tell you something. With this new magnetic device that they have,
There will be no popping off.
your transom, if they pop off, that means your transom fell off the boat.
You're gonna drown. You're gonna sink.
Anyways. We interrupt this program to bring you the much anticipated bonus code for the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. This week's code is trolling. That's trolling. TROLLING, all caps. Just type that in the bonus code section of the contest and receive 100 free entries towards all our current giveaways. For those who haven't entered yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Head on over to fishingcanada.com while you listen to the rest of this episode. Click contests and sign up for all the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. And now, back to the show. All right. We want to talk to you about a very concerning... Have we got all the business done, Dean?
Yep,
Are
all
we
the
good?
business done.
We're good. We want to talk to you about something that's very concerning to us. And, if somebody had asked me 6 months ago, was it going to be possible? I'd have said, not on your life. Not on your life. Actually, about a year ago, we first heard this rearing its ugly head, and there was a muskie tournament series, I believe in Wisconsin, that was thinking about it.
I think they did it.
I think
they did it,
eventually
yeah.
they did it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they actually went ahead and did it, and that is to ban forward-facing sonar during competition. And I guess the reason being is that it gave an unfair competitive advantage to people who had the equipment versus people who did not have the equipment. And I'm also certain that the root cause of the discussion was from people who did not have forward-facing sonar. Because I can't imagine anybody who's been using things like LiveScope saying, I really love my LiveScope because look at me. I can find fish when nobody else can. Now I'm going to go complain to those folks who run that tournament and I'm going to say they should ban it.
It's too easy.
Right. So safe to say, anybody who has used or is using forward-facing sonar or live view sonar, because that's really what it is. It's the ability to see what fish are doing live as opposed to the delay that normal units give us. It's safe to say that the people who are complaining about it during tournaments are the ones that are, A, probably not doing well and winning tournaments, and B, they don't have this technology on their boat. So it's human nature to say, yeah, it's not fair. No, I don't think that's fair. I don't think so. I remember in the early days of tournament fishing in this country, a lot of us had problems with organizers who wanted to put a horsepower maximum on events. And that was all because some people were fortunate enough to be able to get V6s back then, or even V4s that had 150 horses. And they were obviously out competing the other tournament guys who were running 50s and 60s and 75s and 100 horsepower. Mm-hmm. So that was going around back in the day, and that was probably the closest to I can think of to what's happening right now.
Yeah, but I think
right?
As a whole, I think you're right.
Right.
I think that's probably.
But what they did eventually, because the guys with the 150, the buck 50s and 200s, 250s, now 300 horsepower motors, yeah, right. So you're going to cater to the guy with the 50 at my cost, because I won't be able to compete in your event anymore. Well, tell you what, I'm going to start a new event where you will be allowed to have V6 engines. So, so all of a sudden, then you found tournaments that catered to folks with 150 plus horsepower, and tournaments that catered, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think that's wonderful.
No.
My problem is if you've got a 50 horsepower motor on your boat because that's what you A, can afford, B, enjoy, and C, that's what you want to do, that's great. But don't affect somebody who thinks differently.
That's right. Just go fish against them. You enter the tournament and just see how you do. Don't worry about
Or don't fish against them. Go look for a tournament that only has a restriction up to 50. Yeah. And I think that's what's going to happen with this particular situation. Now we're getting way ahead of ourselves because we haven't explained the situation yet. Maybe you can just, in a nutshell, tell folks what we're talking about.
Yeah, because I want to get back to what you're saying, because it doesn't really make sense of what's going on here as to what you're saying.
Oh, it does.
Well, no, because everybody in these tournaments has it.
Right.
So you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not the guys that saying, I can't afford it.
Right.
These guys have it. So what's happening here? So there's two, so far it's been so there's the big tournament series are B.A.S.S, Bass Angler Sports Society, and Major League Fishing, MLF, or the Pro Tour, whatever you want to call it. So those two are the two big ones. There's another one called the NPFL. That's sort of the next level down.
Next level down,
let's call it. And a lot of the elite tournament guys and the MLF guys fish the odd event in the NPFL. So what's happening, though, on September 3rd, the NPFL announced that beginning in the 2025 season, the use of forward-facing sonar will be totally banned during official practice and the competition.
Oh, my.
So the other sonar units, like the side imaging, the 2D, the 360, et cetera, will be permitted. But forward-facing, completely banned. Practice and during the tournaments. So that's the first one. That's the first one that came out.
Before you go any further, was there any discussion given or any reason given, Dean, you did the research on this, as to why they made that decision?
There was just a lot of talk about how the controversy and the public perception of it, but there was no science behind it that, we're catching too many. Because, I mean, you're catching the same amount.
They're getting pressure.
They're getting pressure from the public is what they're saying.
In their statement, here's what it says. Every sport has equipment rules that protect the players and the integrity of the game. As examples, Major League Baseball does not allow aluminum bats so as to protect certain players on defense and to preserve the game's legacy. Auto racing has restrictions on engines and other equipment to protect drivers to ensure competitiveness. The Professional Golfers Association prohibits balls that use the technology to overcome shortcoming of skill. Tournament bass fishing is not different from these other sports and it needs to protect the integrity and appeal of the game.
Right. So that tells me that I was on the right track when we started talking about this, because I'm sure that the complaints did not come from people who were using forward-facing sonar.
That's what I said there too.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is coming from people who do not use that technology.
Right.
And in some cases, people who aren't even fishing if they're getting it from the general public.
Well, I think another aspect of it is
I don't get
people have the conception that when you put that LiveScope transducer down, you see that fish, you're going to catch that fish. I think people still have that conception. You just can't not catch that fish. He's done. He's it. You can kill him. You can throw him back. You can do whatever you want with him. Right? I think that's a major perception out there. You know what I mean? Versus,
we'd be lying
if they
if
saw one underneath in a traditional. Oh, that fish is okay. You might not catch. It makes no sense, right? Transducer's a transducer. You see a fish. You see a fish. So
we'd be lying if we said that it does not change the game.
Of course,
it changes the game significantly.
You're not saying that.
But so did the very first graphite rod change the game. So did the very first level wind reel change the game. So did braided line.
Let's go into this world. So the first flasher that came out, that changed the game. The first paper graph that came out, that changed the game. All of a sudden, electronic graph came out. The color graphs came out. All the colors, now I see a fish that's in a different color than the bottom. That changed the game. This 360 stuff that's out right now, that changed the game. So all this has changed the game. Everything. It's an advancement in the sport, right?
So why is this any different?
Exactly. But you're getting complaints. Somewhere you're getting complaints.
There's got to be an uproar here somewhere. Somebody's got to, I don't know, wave a flag and say, hey, wait a minute. You know, I think it's crazy. Well, could you imagine? Could you imagine now these pros that, I mean, it's bad enough for people like us, but these pros now have to go back. They have to go backwards. Here, let me give you an example of what's going to happen here. All of a sudden, no more, I don't know, let's call it braided line.
Yeah.
That's it. We're banning braided line. There's too much of an advantage for folks using braided line
and
during
Senkos.
competition.
No Senkos.
No Senkos. And that's it.
You can't use a Senko.
No plastics, period. Like, what kind of bullshit is that?
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Where are we living? Holy
I'm trying to read through this NPFL thing, but it doesn't really say where the pressure came from. The other announcement is on September 5th, B.A.S.S Angler Sportsman Society announced that in its 2025 Elite Series, the best of the best anglers in the world, and in the Classic, the number of forward-facing transducers on each boat will be limited to one, and it must be mounted on the trolling motor only at the bow of the boat.
Okay.
So one, you're allowed LiveScope, you're allowed forward-facing, but you're only allowed one.
Okay, so that
might sound odd to some, because let me just start. You keep your thought in mind.
Yeah.
Some people might say, why do you need more? Well, some guys are running up to 4 and 5 LiveScope transducers on their boats, on their bass boats right now. Right. To find fish, folks. Right. So just let you know that. So
this smacks of commercialism of some kind. To me, that one doesn't. That makes even less sense. To be honest with you, what B.A.S.S announced to me makes less sense than just banning it completely. Because if you're okay with the technology, having one on the nose of the boat mounted on your trolling motor, what in the hell are you thinking? That it's not fair? Is this a fair, or is it not ethical? Is there a difference between catching a fish that you spot on your one transducer on your trolling motor versus spotting it, say, on a transducer that's hung off the side of the boat on its own fishfindermounts.com pole?
Yeah.
What the hell is the difference? If this is an ethical issue with regards to, I don't know, preservation of fish, whatever the case may be, which I don't understand because the very nature of B.A.S.S is to exploit nature. Let's be honest. Let's call a spade, shall we? They are taking a living organism and they have created a massive corporation, and a ton of layered corporations have come after B.A.S.S, all based on the exploitation of bass. Now, all of a sudden, we're getting ethical, and we're not totally committed to doing this without technology. We're going to allow you just one unit. How's that? Is everybody happy?
As well. Let me carry on.
My God, I'm going to get sick over this.
So a lot of the amount, like I just said, the transducers can be up to 3, 4, 5 on a boat. Well, I've seen guys with 4 to 5 to 6 screens on their boat too.
Of course.
12. They are now limiting the total amount of screen that you have on your boat to 55 inches in total. So now they're telling you that you can't have all those, wherever you want them, you can have them. But you're only allowed up to 55 inches. So you get some of these, there's a new screen out there. I can't remember the name of the company, but they have an 18 inches or small, or 16 inches or small one, and a 24-inch screen or something like that up front that you can put on there. It's an addition to your Garmin LiveScope, or the Garmin, the high-end units. Not Echo Maps, GPS maps.
GPS maps.
You can run an HDMI cable into that. You got a 24-inch screen. It's like a TV up there. Right? You know what I mean? So
but what the hell is the matter with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Exactly. As well, I'll just keep going on this Elite series and the Elite and Classic competitors. You're only allowed, now this is going to sound really weird to you. If the other stuff sounded weird to you, this one's going to sound really weird to you. You're only allowed one electric motor on here. Now, where would you use 2 or 3 electric motors? I know you're saying that right now because, well, what's happening now are with the LiveScope with the Forward Facing Sonar unit, guys are putting 2 more electric motors on their power poles. So you drop your power poles in and hit these motors, and they're facing backwards, and it stops the boat. So now you can stay upwind of the fish in 30, 50, 100 feet of water with these 2 electric motors on your power poles, and it'll hold you steady. Well, they're not allowing those anymore either, sort of thing. So they're really, I don't know where the pressure.
They should do away with power poles. Because that's an unfair.
That's right. That's it. You can't. Yeah, exactly. Any shallow water anchoring, they could go on and on and on. It's getting. I don't know where this pressure's coming from.
I'll tell you where it's getting
insane.
to. Somebody with a lot of money is going to get their hands on this and say, "Oh, I think it's time that we started B.A.S tournament club, where we will allow you to have all of these toys." And we'll create it into the biggest, baddest fishing league on the planet.
Really? Hey, that's good thinking.
I'm telling you, this is going to give birth to a whole new deal out there.
Wow. So far, Major League Fishing is the only one that hasn't announced anything yet for the 2025 season. So if they're going to follow suit, or maybe they'll just sort of let everybody else take the brunt of the blow, I'm not sure, but it's...
I'm shocked at this one.
Yeah.
B.A.S.S, shame on you. I am shocked on this one. The other one doesn't really, one way or the other. I can't get overly emotional about it.
You know what? Maybe it was a popularity move. Maybe they said, well, not enough people know about the NPFL. If we do this, then the word gets out. Because now we're talking about the NPFL. We've never talked about the NPFL.
I didn't even know it existed.
I mean? So maybe now it's like, whoa, good for them. They're going to get more business. I don't know.
B.A.S, shame on them. Shame, whatever the reasons are. And I can't even imagine what the reasons are. I can't even, like I just told you, they've been exploiting B.A.S for, 65 years. That's when this whole thing started, right? 65 years ago. They've been exploiting fish right from day one. And yes, they exploited them to make a ton of dough. Let's be perfectly honest about it. They didn't do it because they were benevolent like you. Okay, they did it.
I can't even spell that.
But now all of a sudden they have some moral issue. If this is a moral issue thing, I can't.
Let me take a step back, and just in case people are wondering how these guys are using the LiveScope transducers, because it is quite ingenious. So as Angelo and I have set up on the whole Fishing Canada team have set up on our Prince Craft boat, we have a couple of variations, but the normal forward facing sonar is facing forward on either your trolling motor or on a pole mount beside or on the bow of your boat. right? Or both. You can have both, actually. What do you do is, the typical thing. You're shooting what do you call it? A frequency forward, and it's picking up fish. And you can turn your transducer via either your trolling motor or the pole, and you can get a nice, almost 360 view around. You can get a 360 view around of all the fish around from 30 feet to 100 feet out and whatever like that. So that's the normal use of LiveScope. What these guys are doing now is they're having a LiveScope on a forward view and a LiveScope turned sideways on a perspective view, so they get another different view on the front units. Okay, so there's two of them right there. So you're saying, where the hell are they going to put the other two, or three or four, whatever? So now they're taking one maybe off the back of the transom of the boat, shooting straight back or straight down, so that you don't need to either deploy your trolling motor down or your pole down, so you can drive around scoping and looking around without having to do anything. So there's one off the transom, but they're also now putting two out off the sides on the jack plate. So it's shooting angular, or either they're playing around with the different angles and stuff like that. Now they're shooting out to the sides off the jack plate. So now they're driving around, and this is all, they don't use these while they're fishing as a rule. They're using this to try and find their fish. So if they're driving on Lake Ontario is a perfect example for schooling smallmouth. You're driving along, and you might not be on that school, but 45 to 75 feet to your right, there is a school. And when that one's shooting to the right, you go, whoa, I just saw something over there. You spin around, and then all of a sudden there's 30 smallmouth sitting right there. That's the way they're using these things. So they're covering a lot of water in their pre-fishing time to find fish.
So these are professional anglers who do this for a living. They spend thousands, and I don't even know how many hours in a year on the water fishing for bass. And they're at the top of their game. These are professionals to stifle their growth, because that's what you're doing. To stifle their growth at this point seems absolutely ridiculous. I would like to know what would happen if the golf fraternity decided to change some rules. Like, no more putters. There will be no more putters at the professional level of golf. You will have to learn how to putt with your, sand wedge or whatever you would use, but you will not be able to use, because it's an unfair advantage, or because golf.
Use your driver. It's the flattest.
Use your driver. Sorry, your driver. That's how much I know about golf. So you need to use your driver in order to play the game of golf at a professional level. This is no different than that. In my opinion, this is no different than that. Yeah, hockey sticks. Well, I know the NHL. The NHL went through this for a number of years when they were limiting the curve on blades on hockey sticks. I think it lasted for about 5 years, where they had a limit on the curves of the hockey players' sticks. So it was ridiculous, because there was at least one or two major penalties every game where one team would request a measurement of an opposing player's stick, because they looked over the boards and the curve was too much, and so they would measure it, and they'd get a penalty, or the other one would get it became a joke, and then they finally just did away with it.
Is there an old rule now?
No. I mean, think about it. The more, in hockey especially, so the greater the curve, the more you can put on that puck in terms of stuff.
Yeah.
Makes it do weird, wonderful things.
Knuckleball sort of thing, right?
So once they decided, well, we can't control that, so now let's give the goalies a bit of a leg up. We'll let them change their equipment and size in order to be able to, counteract this puck that's doing funny and weird things. So now, the goalies came out with these great big pads and all kinds of stuff. And the guys with those big curved sticks found out pretty soon, I'm not scoring anymore. Not only that, but because I got a curve on my stick, I got no backhand. I can't even deal with a backhand anymore.
Right? Yeah,
so they adjusted themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's how ridiculous what's happening right now with B.A.S.S is in my opinion. I don't understand. Now, if they had just come out and said, hey, yeah, we're going to follow suit with the other guys, and we're banning forward facing sonar, I would be irate, but I would understand it a little better. I don't understand what they're doing with this. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm missing something. I just don't understand what you're doing by limiting it to one, or that it's got to be on your trolling motor.
Or limit it to none.
Or, well, none is to me, it's easy. It's cut and dry. It's black and white. It's open and closed. This is not to me. You're still, if you're doing it for the betterment of wildlife because you want to give, maybe you want to give fish, maybe, I don't know. Are they thinking they need to give fish a bit of
better
a
chance?
Better chance? But that's so ridiculous from
No,
an
not for
organization
B.S.S,
that its entire basis is on the exploitation of fish.
Yeah, they want you to bring that big bag of fish to the weigh-in, right?
I don't get it. Somebody tell me what the hell is going on, because I feel like I'm caught in some kind of a weird time warp or something.
It's too bad they couldn't. Yeah, maybe they're doing this. Pick the lakes, choose the lakes that, like a total shallow fishery at a certain time of year. You're not going to go out there and get them deep, so you don't even need LiveScope. You know what I mean? If they could do it that way, maybe 6 tournaments that way and 6 tournaments deep water-ish or all. I don't know if that's even possible. Maybe I'm blowing smoke out of my arse here, but you know what I mean? So where that LiveScope wouldn't be so important. I watched the tournament on MLF on the weekend, just watched it, and there wasn't one guy that used forward-facing sonar in the top, whatever it was, 20 guys in there. You know what I mean? They were all flipping and pitching bushes, and they didn't even have it on there. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So it didn't matter if you have it. It didn't matter.
Are they trying? Okay, so no, that does. I was going to say maybe they're trying to force anglers to fish shallower. Is that possible?
They're trying to force anglers to fish more back in the day way, I guess.
I think a bit of it is kind of like the entertainment value as well, because that's where I hear the most complaints. Actually, is people who watch it on TV. And these guys aren't casting; they're just looking at a screen because they're not casting until they spot one. Right? So it could come from the audience a little bit too.
That could be. Well, the NPFL no, because they don't know if they have a TV, but B.A.S.S that could be.
Yeah,
for sure.
How's that going to change? How is it going to change with just having one unit on your boat?
Yeah, the one unit I don't understand, but
that's what I mean.
The total ban I would understand from the entertainment perspective, because that's what I hear from the audience is, well, why am I watching when they're just watching a screen?
So, but I guess they'd rather watch a guy just cast and catch nothing than watch a screen, because they're really casting and catching nothing is shit. We'd lose our jobs if we did that catch nothing all day.
And by the way, that's exactly what it would happen. I'll guarantee you the productivity, the numbers of fish. Now, maybe that's it. Now, maybe they've had a review of their conscience and they're maybe saying, we're too good at catching fish. B.A.S.S has said, our guys are just too proficient. We need to catch fewer fish. So, if that's the case, if that was the mindset, ban it completely. Make it gone. Don't leave it in so you can still suck on that hind titty and get money from advertisers and sponsors who are in the technology field and say, we're going to allow one, please continue advertising with us. Because that's what this is. This smacks of, this is a corporate, I don't get it. I still don't understand it. Because fewer fish will get caught, for sure. So from an audience standpoint, you have to realize fewer fish means less entertainment, not more, less entertainment.
That's true.
And you know what? It's even worse than that, because the guys are going to be running around more. They're going to be up on plane flat out looking for fish, means that you will get zero time on the deck of that boat with that professional angler who, by the way, we all watch so we can learn stuff from them. Because they're going to be running around looking for fish. So
well, they are still going to be fishing.
They're going to be fishing, but not as much.
They still run around.
They're going to run around. They're going to run around like crazy.
That's right.
They're not going to be looking for fish on, with their foot on the electric motor, scouting for fish. They're going to be up on that great big 250 that people complain about. Running around looking to see if they could find some of these fish. I hate it. I hated it when it happened with the muskie guys in Wisconsin. Yeah. I hate it when it happened with those national, whatever they're called.
NPFL, yeah.
NPFL. But I didn't hate that as much as I hate what B.A.S.S is doing right now with this, because it's a total contradiction. It's hypocrisy at its worst and ugliest form. And I don't get it. Now, if you can explain to me why, if you can give me some concrete reasons, which they haven't.
Yeah, I don't know if that's been written yet or not. Dean, do you know? Any
No,
chance?
there wasn't a statement from them when I put this together. I'm sure it's going to be developing over the next couple of weeks because I actually saw, since I put this outline together, they retracted one of their restrictions, which was related to like communication, I think. Cooper was posting a bunch of it. They released like a restriction on anglers communicating to each other,
Right.
and then retracted it like a few days later after some backlash. So I'm sure it's all going to be in the works. They don't start till next year.
Wow,
So.
that's interesting. Too.
As ridiculous as this may sound, is this a Coke classic moment that we're having? Is this a new marketing direction by a company that thinks it needs to evolve into some,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and our core audience doesn't like us anymore, and therefore we need to make some drastic changes? Is that what this could be?
So they'd have a series with LiveScope and a series without? Is that what you're thinking? They can split up again?
No. When Coke made its big, what are you looking at?
My phone is listening to us.
Oh,
Shut up, phone.
that's probably B.A.S.S listening in on us.
Oh,
No, when Coke made its drastic move, that was a whole new marketing direction.
Yeah.
We need to change our formula. People don't like us anymore. We need to come up with new Coke. They did, and they lost all their business. And so they had to go back to Coke Classic now. Is this what we're looking at maybe happening here? Is this B.A.S.S coming up with this new direction, this newfound, I don't know, softer, gentler, kinder? I don't even know what it is.
I get the feeling that they're trying to get ahead of the ethical thing, kind of like you talked about, where I think they're scared they won't be able to defend themselves against like the wider public who don't know anything about this if they have all these big TV screens on the boat. So like once like the animal rights people do come for it, I think if all the boats have TVs on them and they're watching screens, they're going to have trouble defending themselves.
But one screen is okay. 55 inches, 50, not one screen, 55 inches is okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
those who do you, PETA, I guess, or whoever would be on it like that, they'd be looking at that, the tournament boats, but every other boat in the friggin' lake has got LiveScope too.
True.
Every
Do you honestly
Average
think
fisherman has got
that
it.
the average Joe who can afford this stuff is going to say, "Oh,
I better get rid of mine.
Maybe I better take 3 or 4 of them units off my boat."
No. They're going to ask the B.A.S.S guys if they can buy them off of them. Hey, you got some
Exactly.
used equipment for me?
Exactly.
And well, the other thing about that, do you think the tournament anglers, now they said pre-fishing and that, but any other thing that they got, you think they're going to, I wonder how they're going to control this, by the way. There's another one. If the guy's got 5 transducers on his boat, or 3, whatever, on there, and the screens, but so you could take the screens off, but how do you guard against them using those other transducers? They have to take them off
They have to take
for
them
every
off.
event
They got to take them off.
and out, and then put them back in when they want to go pre-fishing somewhere else, or fun fishing,
I
or
have
guiding,
no idea, but-
or whatever they're doing elsewhere aside from the 2 tournament series. That's an insane one right there. Or they have they'll have a
screw-
marshal.
yeah,
A marshal on
marshal.
each
check the
boat.
batteries at the start of every event, make sure they're not hooked up or something.
They got to.
You can unplug of course you can unplug the transducers, then you're
Because-
done, right? The
because-
box, but how do you say he doesn't go back and plug that back in halfway through the day?
That's what I'm saying.
You need a marshal.
This is going to open up a whole new set of problems with people circumventing or finding loopholes. You know who really had a nightmare of a time? In fact, they lost their core audience but have been working really hard the last decade to get them back, is NASCAR. NASCAR went through this exact same thing.
Really?
At the pinnacle, NASCAR was on top of its game. It had a huge following, massive advertising contracts. Like they just were giddy with the corporation. It was doing that well. And then things started to change. Well, maybe we need to take off that rear wing and slow these cars down a bit. And, maybe we should make them all look pretty much all the same. And maybe we should standardize the amount of graphics on each vehicle.
And reason being for all this? What is the
This is because.
No.
Who knows?
Wow.
But they went through this thing, and next thing you know, the public is starting to say, yeah, you know what? And I'm one of these members of the public, by the way, who said, I don't find the racing all that exciting anymore. It's just one big lineup of cars, and whoever does well in the pre-race and qualifications pretty much is going to win the race, and they just go head to tail around for 2 hours, and the odd time there's a bit of a pile up, and then things change. But otherwise, and NASCAR found out when it was too late that they had made some drastic changes that didn't sit well with the audience. Maybe they didn't ask the audience. Maybe B.A.S.S really didn't go to the right people to ask the questions here. Because I think there's going to be backlash. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah,
but anyways, NASCAR started slowly backtracking to the point where now the cars are very identifiable. You can see that this is a Chevy Camaro and this is a Mustang, and this they allowed them a little more leeway when they're building their cars. They've got more downforce or less downforce, because that was the big thing. They wanted more downforce for safety issues, but they slowed the cars down. They also impeded their ability to draft. Drafting was part of NASCAR. Right? The people who did well in NASCAR, they figured out the principles behind drafting, the technology behind drafting. So they built their cars so that they could draft well.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that was all taken away from them by NASCAR.
Wow.
So anyways, all I'm saying is this is not the only industry that's gone insane.
Probably every industry's probably done it,
Yeah,
right? That's
and I don't understand it.
Maybe a competitive industry. Another thing I was just thinking as we were talking here, and what Dean said earlier about the audience not wanting to watch watch the screen. Well, maybe B.A.S. or MLF, maybe they could take a look at this and say, okay, I've got a cameraman on the boat where it's all about entertainment here. Got a cameraman on the boat. You get this guy up front. Maybe you make it as part of the rule, as part of the cameraman's job, to be asking this guy a question the whole time, so that guy has to relay to the audience what he's looking at, what he's doing, et cetera, et cetera. Because if he's just in there holding his fishing rod, well, nobody gives a shit. But if he says, you know what, look at that, I just saw a school of shad over there. They hook up to the Garmins. They can do that now with all the units. Yeah. Hook it up. They see the screen. Look at that. There's a school of shad over there. See that? There's one fish over there. You imagine? I would watch that like crazy. And if this guy's explaining, I'm using a 4-inch little jerk shad here on a 16th ounce jig head, and make them do that instead. Because I bet you the anglers would love that. They could use all the equipment they wanted, as long as they're keeping an entertainment value.
You just made a great point that I hadn't even thought of. Maybe B.A.S.S has gone to their constituents, in this case the pro anglers, at some point over the last little while, and said, guys, we need a little more from you. You can't be sitting there looking at your screen all day long. I got TV shows to produce here. The viewers are complaining. I need you to be a little more, into it with the camera. I need you to tell us how is this new device, this ability to see fish in real time ahead of you, how are you interpreting those signals? What are you doing with those signals? How are you catching those fish? But maybe the angler said no. Maybe they were reluctant to say, and this is B.A.S.'s answer to that. So you don't want to talk about it? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take some of those toys away from you.
Could be a possibility. Yeah,
I never even thought of that.
Yeah,
that's a possibility. In which case,
that's why I said bring the cameraman into it too, because the cameraman could be, would spawn on the questions to him. Bill, what are you looking at?
Well,
Jimmy,
for all we know, they've asked that. For all we know, they've gone through that.
No, it could be a possibility.
And the angler, because you know what anglers are like, right? No, I ain't telling no one nothing.
Yeah, but I don't know. These guys are all about the perception, the persona, the whole idea. You know what I mean? They're all about the larger in life they are, the more money they make. Sure. I mean, let's be honest. They're all sponsored. They're all, it's good. Sure. It's good for them. Kevin Van Dam, look at him. He's a beast. He's a monster. Everybody knows Kevin Van Dam. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Call that. That's what we need to call them out for doing. MLF, you go ahead and do that, and then you're going to have you're going to have all the audience in the world.
Right.
There you go.
That's exactly what's going to happen. I think. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, I would like to know more. If anybody knows anything about this, please let us know. And Dean, we need to maybe we should talk to some of these pros.
Yeah, I agree.
Get their point of view. Maybe they know more about it.
Yeah.
than
We're going to
we
be
do.
with a bunch of them in the next couple of weeks.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
We're going to be with Gussie and Coop.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're
Let's-
working on getting Chris Johnston onto the podcast when we get back too. So he might have
perfect.
something to say on it too. So
Okay, perfect. Yeah, but we need to talk to them because they're the ones who are mostly affected by this, not us. I'm still going to get as many screens as I possibly can.
And if we have to, we would try and talk to somebody from B.A.S.S. You know
Well,
what I mean?
that would be
perfect. That would then
perfect.
somebody that knows about the rule and knows why they did it, and et cetera, et cetera.
Especially now that I've bashed them. They
I'm
would
sure
love
they'll be
to.
excited to come on, yeah.
Yeah, rebut.
Yeah, they got to.
It's all about rebuttal.
Yeah, they got to save face,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Anyways, that's it for that story. It's worth keeping an eye on. Although it's not going to affect you and me because we have no such restrictions yet.
The only
Yet.
restrictions is our wallet, right?
Yet.
That's it.
However, like all things that trend, if this should become a thing, who knows? Maybe, and I'm just throwing this out there, okay, maybe if it becomes prevalent at that high a level, maybe ministries, natural resources people will look at it because there's been some dialogue there too already about
course.
unfairness, et cetera. Maybe they look at it and say, hey, if it's good enough for the pros to put restrictions on their competitors, maybe we need to put restrictions on.
Why are you giving everybody ideas?
I'm just saying,
has
that's
happened
what
before.
scares me about that.
That has happened before, right? Because
Sure it
like
has.
we have conservation and sport fishing like retention limits because of tournaments, right?
Right.
So they do influence policy in that way.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
So look out for that. In the meantime,
Don't listen to them, Graydon.
use-
Don't listen to them.
use as many screens as you can. The more, the merrier.
Yeah.
And I want to see a transducer every foot of the boat,
Loaded with LiveScope transducers.
all hooked up together
Yeah.
for one big image.
Yeah.
Anyways, we just thought it'd be important to postpone our regularly scheduled podcast for today so that we could address this because it is very
It's
concerning.
interesting, yeah.
And we all need to keep an eye on it. If you have anything to add to this, by all means, reach out to Dean or Pete and I at Fishing Canada. Where do they? Where
Info.
Are they?
Info at fishingcanada.com.
Info at fishingcanada.com. And let us know what you think. And maybe we missed something. Maybe we went offside. Maybe I stepped across the line again. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. That are it. On behalf of all of this wonderful group in here today, Boba behind the camera, Nick in and out.
He didn't know
and
my
Dean.
ass. Don't protect him. He
He
wasn't
was.
here.
He was
he
in
here?
and out. Yeah. You missed
yeah,
him.
he was here.
He
When
came.
was he here?
He
But
came.
how long was he here for?
I don't know.
20 minutes.
20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
Don't
enough.
hurt yourself, Nick.
Enough, just to get the feel.
From
of the
his
end, yes.
smoking out there to his smoking out there. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry he was here.
You got a thing with him, huh? You better watch
if,
it. You
you're-
might-
if there's anybody that's the poster boy of canine fornication, that boy is it right there. That's all I can say. Okay.
and the wonderful, the lovely, the talented Dean Taylor
Come on now.
pushing the right buttons for us.
Come on now.
I'm Angelo and Reno Viola. He is Peter Bowman. Thanks for joining us, folks. Talk to you soon.
Bye bye.
This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio has been brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Center, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species, and Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.